Hello, and welcome to the Slow Ready Podcast, your casual drive into the music and culture of Goose. I'm Alex.
And I'm Mike.
Awesome to be back here with you all. Excuse my voice, I got laryngitis right now, but powering through to get through this Florida run. Going to recap the blistering 5-show run here from Miami Beach to St. Augustine. Mike, you want to hit them with the social information?
Yeah, absolutely. As usual, our socials are the best way to keep up with the podcast. So follow us at Slow Ready Pod on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're at, we're there.
Awesome. We got a few news and notes this week in our section we call Hot Tea. The first being a huge announcement. Goose will be playing MSG for the first time as part of the Soul Shine event, hosted by Warren Haynes and Dave Matthews Band. It's a hurricane relief concert, and all the benefits will go to the Soul Shine Concert Fund. It's going to benefit a bunch of nonprofits in North Carolina and Florida. Going to be an awesome time. I'll be there representing the pod, and wish Mike can make it too.
Yeah, I definitely wish I could be there. It's going to be obviously an amazing event with an amazing lineup in the best arena in all of the world. So super jealous of my co-host here, but he's going to hold it down for us, and I'll be happy to watch the stream from home, like I'm sure many of us will be.
Tons of great acts. You know, we got Nathaniel Rateliff, got Warren Haynes Band, obviously, Goose, Dave Matthews, Trey Anastasia is going to be there. Great legend, Mavis Staples, tons of them. Tedeschi Trucks, so going to be awesome. And then the second bit of news, which translates well into the first Miami Beach show, is the band showed off a new arrangement on stage with Peter now sitting on stage right on your left if you're facing the stage, and Cotter and Jeff both being on the right side if you're facing the stage together, and it's kind of more a compact feel on stage. What do you think about this, Mike?
Yeah, I love the move. You know, my initial thought was, your brain just kind of immediately goes to, okay, well, the rhythm section is kind of together, and then, melody and harmony is kind of together as well. So, they did kind of allude to that in their post explaining why they did it, that, it allows the rhythm section to be a little bit more in tight, and it also allows Rick to kind of get a good view at any moment, what the rhythm section's going on, and also kind of makes it easier to collaborate with whatever Pete is putting down. So I'm pretty optimistic early on here that this setup is for the best, and I think it opens up a lot of unique opportunities for the band to take their improv to an even another level.
Yeah, the post about this after the first show with the new arrangement, they alluded to the fact that this is how they arrange themselves when they're jamming, when they're doing TED tapes type stuff. So it makes total sense for the improv to take off to a new level to try something new. They can all see each other better. So it's been terrific so far. So with that, let's get into night one at Miami Beach. You want to read off the set for me, Mike?
Yeah, let's save your voice here a little bit at least. So night one
Really
of Miami.
raspy. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Got the Alex with the smoker voice today. But night one in Miami starts off great with the Whales. My mind has been consumed by media. And then we go into the Mist, Born, The Way It Is, Flow Down, and then Salt to wrap things up for set one. And then set two starts off with Pancakes, Rosewood Heart, which is an amazing combo to get things started. And then into Butter Rum, Everything Must Go, Animal Locks Down set two. And then an encore of Don't Do It by the band, which is always welcome. So I don't know. There's a ton to get into here, Alex. Is anything jumping out at you right away, or?
This was a great show. The main thing that stood out to me in set one was that Born beast of a jam there. Get a bit of a roller coaster ride on this one. Get a slow groove started with Rick rocking some like fuzz that gives a sinister feel, and there's a nice tension with Pete on the uplifting keys. And then we kind of hit like a small peak there, go right back down into this ambient space. Think you're listening to like the Interstellar soundtrack or something at that point, and then it just in the blink of an eye, it takes off and you're through the stratosphere. So all gas, no brakes. I really think this was the first time that band in this new arrangement was really highlighted with the rhythm section just locked in.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I had Born kind of, if not the highlight of the night, at least the highlight of set one. I will say, before getting into the Born, I did think this was kind of a little bit of a herky-jerky flow here in set one. I love all of these songs, obviously. I like pretty much every Goose song, but it was for me at least a little bit up and down in terms of flow. Not going to complain because they're all great songs, like I said, but this Born was definitely the real star. It's, like you said, it starts off patient with Peter on a classic piano. There is definitely a lot of fuzz to Rick's tone. Cotter seemingly having 11 arms on this one. Pete shifts into, painting the room with all of his spacey vibes and sustained haunting synths and pretty much every variation you can imagine. But when it picks up pace, it moves into this amazing dark goose, or borderline at least dark goose. And it felt like for a little bit, to your point on like the dancey aspect of it, that there was definitely parts where I was like, this could be on like the Tron soundtrack or something, done by Daft Punk. It kind of had that vibe and that feel with all the synths and everything. And then Flow Down into Salt is kind of an aggressive way to end set one, but I really like the vibes there.
Yeah, actually, the whole ending run was cool. The way it is always a welcome cover too, and it was a cool transition between that and Flow Down, where you get Duel of the Fates tease again from Rick, which was really fun. And Zalt, STL, Salt now. We're back, baby. And it was awesome. Just electric. That song can go anywhere, and it's awesome. What about the set two? What do you think?
Yeah, so with set two, I think probably Pancakes narrowly edges the Born as the overall highlight for me. They're very neck and neck, but this Pancake was absolutely absurd. And after the initial cool down, they kind of take a beat before Peter starts laying into some heavy clav. And a lot of this all kind of generates from the super cool, unique groove that Cotter has going there at the beginning. And Peter kind of plays variations off of that unique rhythm section, but then they kind of move into like an ominous progression on piano while also keeping the clav in play. And this is something that I wanted to note because you've been seeing it a lot lately. Pete's obviously a great multitasker and he's usually doing two or more things at once. But I feel like, especially in the second leg, I've seen a lot more instances of where Pete is doing two things at once, but they're also very like two different distinct ideas. So, this is an example where the piano is kind of doing one thing, the clav is adding yet another element, but his focus at both things at once is just absolutely impressive. And it really sets a unique vibe because he's kind of juggling multiple things here. And then as this, Rick's playing intensifies, they kind of have a unique sound to his guitar there where it almost sounds like borderline like an EDM effect. It hits a hell of a peak. And then, Rosewood is beautiful, Rosewood no matter what. And I feel like the rest was fairly standard from there. But yeah, the Pancakes was absolutely baller.
You said it all about that Pancakes. Once again, roulette wheel of effects and ideas in a compact jam. Pancakes is the best vehicle for that right now. Rosewood was pretty standard, like really nice, beautiful jam on it. You got a little bit of like a jazz fusion feel between Rick and Cotter on this one, which I enjoyed. But you left out Butter Rum, dude. Like, if it wasn't for Born, this Butter Rum slapped for me. Like, and that's not a song I normally love. But I mean, I love every Goose song, but it's never like my highlight usually. But it's outrageously fun. Really wah heavy boogie fast on this, and it almost had a jam I'd expect on like a funkier tune than Butter Rum. Like it sounded like something I would expect coming out of like a Feel It Now or a Yeti or something. So just great.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I mean, 2024, I'll be an apologist for it, but 2024 has been a very good year for Butter Rum. There's always going to be some detractors of that song for whatever reason, but I feel like this year there's been a ton of Butter Rums that people, can sleep on at their own peril. But, I think of like the Charlotte one that I was at, and, there's been a handful of other ones where they're actually doing really unique stuff on it. And this one's no different. Unfortunately for me, I get into the weeds where I'm writing like 5 or 6 pages of notes on every show. So there's only so much I can get into. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. This Butter Rum is really, really awesome.
Yeah, I just had to give you a little shot there, but Butter Rum, I think that's like two shows in a row that I can think of where it's kind of been a sleeper highlight. The Salt Shed being the other one I could think of we talked about. So terrific. And then yeah, great way to close the set. Don't do it's awesome. Animals always fun. So everything must go. Also great. So terrific stuff. How about night two here? What do we think of this set? You want to read it off?
Yeah, so it starts off with Earthling or Alien, Mr. Action, Indian River transitioning into Atlas, and then lead up Rock the Casbah with some specially arranged lyrics for this night, which we'll get into here in a second. And then So Ready to close out set one. Set two starts off with a beastly All I Need into White Lights, Electric Avenue cover, same old shenanigans, Lead the Way, Hot Tea, and then an encore, kind of a big encore. You get Jive 2 and Jively in the encore. So another 2-song encore, if you will. What jumps out at you, Alex?
Yeah. I think night one was stronger for my taste, but there's a lot to like about this one. It's just a little more sporadic. Like sporadic's not the right word, but just like up and down, like in terms of like where the highlights are. What really stood out to me the most was the start of that set two, getting a set two All I Need, monster All I Need, the best version I can remember in a while. And really, what was interesting about it to me was Peter had like locked into this descending riff on the keys, and that became the anchor to the jam for a long portion of it, where it just became the center point of letting the rest of the band do what they do best in 2024, with Rick pulling melody out of thin air, Cotter doing his thing on the toms, and Jeff just complimenting him perfectly with the timbales and everything. And, Trevor just holding down the pocket. So really great full band jam. Then went into this White Lights, which is like potentially my goat. White Lights, just an awesome version of White Lights. Another song that's not usually necessarily the highlight of a show for me. Always fun. But with this one gets really shreddy and dark towards the end. And it still maintains that dancey feel through all of that. So awesome stuff.
Yeah, White Lights was a big winner here. Also like to shout out this ERA. It was maybe one of the more patient starts to an ERA that I can remember. They really just take a beat and kind of figure out together where they're going to go with it. But Pete has this, the clav is kind of always going to be present on ERA, and he has a great riff with that. And Rick kind of starts to weave in and out of it, but as it builds, he kind of shifts to elements of Pete's original line, kind of uses them to imply a change to the next section. And they sort of wind up in this sort of like psychedelic slash ethereal space. And it was really fun for me to see ERA, which is one of my favorite, funk vehicles, go kind of a completely different route right out of the gate here just to start the show off. So this is one of my favorite openers in recent memory, just because it did something so different while still maintaining the ERA. Indian River was a really solid highlight from set one. I'm never going to get sick of Delta. And even though, it has a lot of the same themes, there's always nuances to it. And this Delta was pretty freaking great. And we've gone on and on about how insane the transitions have been this tour, but specifically going from Delta to Atlas, I rewound that like 4 or 5 times in a row in quick succession, because I mean, it was just pitch perfect. Like, goodness gracious, it was amazing. And then Rock the Casbah on set one also, we get some special lyrics, which were, pardon me if I misquote this, but Naveed doesn't like it on his day off at the bus wash or at the truck wash, depending on which chorus we were in. So something happened to Naveed, the head of merch there, on his day off that he wasn't too happy about. And that was one of the most hysterical things I've seen Goose do.
Naveed don't like it. It was awesome. I was laughing my ass off. Give chance for Jeff to shine singing too. This is a hit or miss cover for some folks, but I love it. Great time. And yeah, just want to echo what you said on the ERA, especially. Really cool space it explored. That was my other highlight if I wasn't going to bring up set two there, because that atmospheric space at the end that just ramps up the last minute to like a Rick shred fest to end is really interesting and different.
Yeah, and I do want to touch on I had a lot to say about set one, but like moving into set two and going back to what you said, I definitely 1000% agree with you on the All I Need. That was a very fun opener for set two. Interesting rhythmic patterns in that one, with Cotter's like controlled scattershot approach, which is what I may just have to like name this style that he has in jams that he uses a lot. Jeff's going absolutely crazy. It's just kind of everyone doing their own thing, except it's also together. It's very interesting to hear, like, it's not like they're all on different time signatures, but they are all kind of like playing with their own time in a sense, in terms of like Trevor seemed to be like just a little bit behind the drums, Rick was a little bit in front, but it all worked together to the same goal. So that All I Need was absolutely phenomenal. And the transition into White Lights, again, amazing transitions here. That one definitely has a lot of juice. It went from intense to dark quick for a second into like a series of massive tension builds, before coming around full circle. The SOS Dawn had a lot of juice to it too, so I really, really enjoyed this second night here. I may actually disagree with you just slightly that I think I like night 2 over night 1, but really good shows in Miami either way.
Oh yeah. I mean, is there a bad Goose show?
No,
There's
no.
no. Shout out to the Jive 2, Jive Lee Encore too.
Yeah,
Short versions, but awesome. I love to see it.
definitely agree.
But then we got the highly anticipated themed Halloween show in St. Pete, October 31st, spooky holiday. Don't know if you've heard of Halloween. And the band picked a Stranger Things theme. Cotter burst on the stage as 11 from Stranger Things. And Rick was Steve Harrington. And Peter was Dustin. Trevor was Billy. And Jeff was Sheriff Jim Hopper. Really fun night. Really fun theme. Let's get into the set list, Mike.
Yeah, so obviously, as I'm sure many of you could expect and have seen since the show, this was going to be very cover heavy. Halloween shows typically have a different end goal than a standard jam band show. You kind of know going in the game is to have fun and to play a lot of songs that you would not normally play. So that was definitely the case here. Starts off, with everyone playing the Stranger Things theme, which was really, really cool. Obviously, there's a lot of unique synth sounds in that score that's become, very famous and ubiquitous. And they had a lot of fun kind of jamming that out, not like extremely or anything, but, just taking it on a little drive here to start things off. And we move into Dr. Darkness, Yeti, Silver Rising, Wisteria Lane, and then Psycho Killer and Maniac being the first two random covers coming in here. And then Madhuvan, Wipeout, back into Madhuvan. And then starting off set 2, you've got Spin Me Round Like a Record, which is another cover. Arrow into Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush, which is probably the most famous song from the show. Back into Arrow, Creatures, Everybody Wants to Rule the World cover. And then the encore had a reprise of the Stranger Things theme and the Empress of Organos. So obviously a lot to get into here. What do you like to talk about first here, Alex?
I mean, I'll just keep it short and sweet. That the covers were awesome. Would like to see some of these stick around a little bit, if possible. Especially the Everybody Wants to Rule the World, You Spin Me Around, and Running Up That Hill. So really the second set stuff I would love to see stick around. The other stuff would be great too. Don't get me wrong, but those really stood out, especially the Kate Bush cover. And they had to nail this. Everyone knows this is the Stranger Things anthem outside of the theme song, and they crushed it. Like, I did not know this could be the jam vehicle it was, but before all that, just nailing the feel of the song in their own style, and Rick crushing the vocal lines was just amazing to see. Very Cotter driven jam on this one. He was the heartbeat, doing a heartbeat style, intense tom work on this that kind of had like a spooky atmospheric feel to it that eventually led into another, Mario Kart Rainbow Road style ending. So really hope this sticks around. It even in a way kind of reminded me a little bit of that drip field from LA that we heard in September. So I did not know we could get to that with Kate Bush.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, before last night, which we'll get into here in a little bit, I would say probably the Running Up the Hill Arrow section of this show was going to be my most replayed from the week. I don't know if it's like jam of the year stuff or anything like that, but it's just far as fun to listen to. This Arrow, Kate Bush, was just everything I want. And on another note, Goose just kind of nails the assignment when it comes to things like these. They're a super fun, goofy band at their heart, maybe a little bit nerdy, and they embrace that. And it's so cool to see how Cotter's personality fits so well with them. I really think he's the perfect personality to be the drummer of this band. He comes out as 11 in a pink dress, tells the crowd halfway through set 1 that he's not wearing panties, which he knew they were all thinking about. So it was just so fun to see them have their
Just you, Mike. It was just you.
I think it was more than just me, but it was on some people's minds allegedly, anyways. But they always nail it when it comes time to moments like this. They have the most fun, and these covers were awesome. I hope they stick around as well. One minor note, I will say, I was slightly disappointed that there were a couple other songs that had big musical moments from Stranger Things that were not included. So, Heroes from season 1 by Peter Gabriel, I would have loved to see some version of that. And then Separate Ways by Journey, which I think was in the latest season of Stranger Things, is played like right before they go into Vecna's house, who is the big bad guy of this show. I thought that would have been perfect because it has a huge synth part.
Spoilers.
I mean, it's a few years old. If you're not with the times or the zeitgeist at this point, like, I don't know what to do for you. Like, sorry, this is a music podcast. This isn't even my job to talk about these things, but just saying, a Separate Ways by Journey cover would have really, really hit the spot, and Pete could have slayed that on synth. So, but yeah, I wouldn't have had any complaints going to this show. It was a really good time, which was exactly what it was supposed to be. And I'm sure everyone left very happy. Saw lots of great costumes in the crowd, so seemed like a great night. And that pier venue in St. Pete looks like a really cool place to see a show.
Gorgeous venue. And on a silver rising lining, I don't think we could have taken any more covers on our normal set list post on social media because we had to like cram everything in there. There were so many songs. But just kidding. It would have been awesome to hear more Stranger Things covers. Maybe there'll be a season 2 next year for Halloween or something.
Yeah, and one other quick note before we leave: the Wipeout cover with Cotter doing the intro Wipeout typical vocals that you would expect there was absolutely awesome. Just absolutely love that little part.
Yeah, that run, Maniac into Madhuvan into Wipeout back into Madhuvan, really cool. I mean, if you're gonna get a really short Madhuvan, like having some cool covers that are fun like this and out of left field made it really fun. Did not expect to get Surfaris in the middle of my like dark Madhuvan.
Yeah, it's a good point, but yeah, it was definitely welcome. And yeah, I mean, I really hope that You Spin Me Around Like a Record sticks around too. That's one of my guilty pleasures from the 80s. So
And to your point earlier too, man nailed the assignment on YouTube too. They know exactly what the highlights are when they post these things. They put the entire first leg of the first set or second set in 40-minute YouTube video for us to watch. So awesome. But this show, given that it was cover heavy and had kind of a lack of jams, really set up for St. Augustine. And let's get into the set lists.
yeah, so Hot Love and Lazy Poet starts things off as it typically has in 2024. Then we've got Butterflies, California Magic, I'm Writing a Novel by Father John Misty, into One In, One Out, Whip It by Devo making an appearance for the first time in a little while, Seekers on the Ridge Part 1 and 2, and then a Tumble Set 1 closer. And then Set 2 starts off with Big Modern, Redbird, Echo of a Rose, Mississippi Half Step makes a comeback, Arcadia, and then a Slow Ready encore. So absolutely phenomenal show. The vibes were so high at this venue. The band remarked numerous times how it was the most energetic and loudest crowd they've ever played in front of. St. Augustine had such a great time this weekend. But what strikes you first here, Alex?
Oof. They were definitely holding back the jams for the weekend. Like they were holding back the jams for the back half of this show and all of night two. But obviously, great run to start. Exciting to get that Father John Misty cover. But things really start to take off with Tumble to close set 1. Great extended funk coming out of that main portion of the song. And Peter, a cool kind of thing was he got to jump between Rick and Trevor on that side of the stage now, and they were all jamming together, like close together, as he kind of ripped on his guitar, and just a really cool dynamic I haven't seen before from this band. And we we get an extended groove there that leads into a quieter move to the keys eventually by Peter, going into this kind of cool ambient space before ramping back up to close out the song on a huge peak. And a great way to close out set 1. So what'd you think of this Tumble?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Tumble was definitely my highlight from set 1. I really like Butterflies too a lot, though. I really just love how that song kind of lends itself to like an off kilter psychedelic type places. I feel like Butterflies is just really good for those kind of unique spaces. And I'm really hopeful that at some point in the next year or so we get one that goes like 18, 20 minutes or something like that, because there's just a lot of potential there to get really weird with it.
We need a jam.
Yeah, we
We need
definitely
a
do.
long butterfly jam.
It could go to some really weird places, and I would be here for it. This whole set list is just loaded in terms of heavy hitters. But to talk about the Tumble just a little bit, It starts off with its typical funky fun self before going into a darker, slightly ominous space as it picks up intensity. There are runs where obviously it's definitely rocking, but some of these runs almost have like Latin influences in them. And even Rick's tone almost takes on like a Santana type feel at times, which I thought was very, very cool. And Tumble has been just all over the map this year. I think it's got one of the highest hit rates percentage wise of jams this year. It's just rarely is Tumble letting me down. And this was another kind of unique take on Tumble that I thought was very, very good.
So good. And unique, like you said, they've all been unique, I feel like, especially this latest run of them. So once again, proving it's the song of 2024 in a lot of ways. Until you get to Big Modern, of course, to open set two, which is just my favorite now. Like, gotta bring that Ford F-150 home. And this is another traditional rock kind of jam on this one, kind of like we saw in Alabama. Not as many themes explored as we've seen, but just on point, peak traditional rock Goose here. Hit such a groove and stuck with it. What'd you think of this one?
Yeah, you kind of set me up perfectly because Big Modern was the other song that I really wanted to talk at length about this show. I mean, it doesn't miss. It's maybe my favorite song of the moment for sure because it never lets me down. But as in Butterflies, we quickly find ourselves in a place where everything's kind of slightly off kilter again, and you've got people working on different timelines, and I just think it's so fun. And I agree that it kind of goes into a traditional rock, almost like a southern rock vibe, but Big Modern is just a complete chameleon, and they keep doing new things with it, and I want to hear it at every show.
Awesome highlight to start off the set. Always welcome as an opener to a set. But my main highlights were actually later in the set for me. This Redbird, we posted a video of it, was a monster. Beautiful full band jam on this one. Just kind of stayed in that uplifting space you get coming out of the main kind of duet between Peter and Rick, and that solo that Rick does coming out of them doing their vocal harmony together. And then it just kind of never leaves that positive, floaty major key space, but it was beautiful and just built and built. Terrific stuff. And then my other highlight, weirdly enough, was Arcadia to close out the main set. It was giving me all the 2019 feels compared to the Nashville one. This was much more up my alley, giving me kind of some of those stray Peach Fest vibes. So always welcome a Peach Fest sounding Arcadia.
Yeah, I actually was going to comment on the Redbird too. It was really great. It was a patient start by everyone locked in on the same progression, and just absolutely gorgeous work by Trevor on this one. He was all over the map. He even had like some extra like gurgly sounds on the bass going at different points, but it had so much juice and it went to this soaring emotional space near the end that was just absolutely fantastic. Arcadia was really great as well. I thought the Echo Over Rose had a lot of juice also. And Slow Ready in the encore, I think, is a really great spot for it and a great note to end this show on. So just a really great night from start to finish. And compared to what you had in Halloween and St. Pete the night before, the improv, to your point, really started taking off here.
Yeah, and it's kind of wild. We have a set with Echo of a Rose and Mississippi Half Step, and we're not even like talking about them, even though they were amazing. Like always welcome in a set, but just so many highlights to this. And really, if you haven't listened to this show yet, please go listen back, especially through Tumble through the end is just amazing.
Yeah, definitely agree on that.
So how about night two here? After that night one, it's like, how can you top that? But still a lot left on the table, and they crushed it. So sorry to make you read all these. Obviously, anyone who's been listening to this, hopefully my voice has not made you shut this off 5 seconds in. But go ahead, Mike.
You're a champion in our books, Alex. So this night too, I'll definitely preface. I have more to say about this one than any of the rest. I think this is the best show of them coming back for the second leg, besides the Winston-Salem show that we were at last week. So it starts off with Turbulence in the Night Rays. Then we have Draconian Meter Maid, Turn Clouds, Drive, Wild Night by Van Morrison, Feel It Now, Western Sun, and Rockdale to close out set one. And then set two starts off with Hunger Site, State of the Art, AEIOU, cover by Jim James, Thatch, Dripfield, Shamalama Ding Dong, and then Give It Time in the encore. This show was absolutely incredible. What do you got from me, Alex?
Where to start? Turbulence, always great. Awesome opener. This draconian meter maid, it didn't hit the highs of Nashville for my taste, but it is beautiful and it explores some really cool space for such a weird, dark, kind of sinister sounding song. Absolutely loved it. But really, again, kind of similar to night one, is they were kind of pushing back some of the jams to the back half of the show. And it really started to take off with the improvisation with the Rockdale to close out set one. But everything about this set one is like right up my alley. Like I love all these songs, even the drive, even though it's more compact. Again, exploring some really beautiful space in this in a short, compact version of it. So yeah, I don't even know where to start. What was your main highlight from set one here, Mike?
I don't even know if I have a main highlight because it's I started writing about this show and I just didn't stop. So I mean, the whole thing is a highlight to me. I feel like just to start off with, if you're going to like a standard Goose show, obviously the Winston-Salem one from last weekend was a benefit show, kind of a different standard. But if you're going to a standard Goose show on this fall tour, I think this is kind of like what you should be looking for. You know, to your point, very songy in set one, a lot of the improvs reserved for set two, but I'm okay with it. That's kind of my perfect Goose show, like I've said before. One big jam in set one and then push the rest of it to set two and I'll be golden. But echoing what you said, this meter maid was stellar. The whole band was engaged in this like circular pattern rhythmically in a gorgeous, blissy space. Very cool to see this song keep opening up more as it gets more time on tour. Would have loved like 10 more minutes of it because they were really starting to push it into some interesting spaces, but still enjoyed what we got there. I will take turn clouds at every show for the rest of my life. Drive had a very dancey start, which was interesting. Peter kind of turned into Corey Wong for a little bit on that one, and Rick started to go off. I love Wild Night. I'm a huge Van Morrison fan. That was a pretty hefty dust off there. It had not been played in, I want to say, like a year and a couple months. So that was really cool to see that back. Hope that sticks around. Feel It Now, that song just fucks, and they should play it way more than they do. And Rockdale with Cotter was, it's just got so much more power now with him as a drummer. I know that applies to a lot of the songs, but you really notice it in these Rockdales when they start to like kind of unleash them, how much of a difference Cotter makes in terms of his impact. After the initial fury, they kind of settle into this zone somewhere between patient and pushing, but Rick had so much intention in that playing with some of his muted runs. It was just like his skill is just like, get the hell out of here, dude. He's just a monster, the absolute dude. So yeah, that was an amazing set one. And let me know. I've got a lot more to say on set two as well.
You nailed it. Like all my thoughts pretty much similar. I'll just say on that Rockdale, just to echo what you said, Cotter just has kind of taken over these compact versions. But it was really cool how like they went into the jam and Peter was just kind of like laying down this droning, swirling kind of synth, and then Cotter was just like, "Nope, let's go double time. This is a cool space, but fuck that. We're going to go rock on this Rockdale and just go into this ripping peak." So I think it's like kind of like been one of the gems of this tour is seeing how much Cotter is making Rockdale super fun, even if it's not like a 25-minute jam. Oh my God, my voice.
We're almost to the finish line, buddy. But yeah, going into set two, like I said, I've got even more to say about this. This is an amazing set two. It was a very furious hunger site starting off. Kind of had a lot of the anger that we saw in Winston last week, where it's almost got like a Madhavan type feel to the jam. That was absolutely stellar. They always kill this state of the art cover, and it was kind of a welcome cool down coming off of the fury of that hunger site. And then the thatch was really, really tasty thatch. They went full 80s vibes for a bit, and it had really tasty peaks during that. But the drip field for me, I think, is definitely going to be the ultimate highlight from this show and maybe of the whole week. It goes into some awesome swampy, soupy spaces. Peter and Trevor, particularly, playing very chunky. Cotter is seemingly an octopus on this one. They move into this spacey, blissy section that once it gets going was truly one of the most beautiful pieces of music I've heard from this band all year long. And this drip field is immediately going on my Jam of the Year playlist. So Yeah, I mean, and then give it time in the encore. I mean, they spoke a lot about how this was the loudest crowd that they'd had, and they were just so enthusiastic all weekend. Clearly, this crowd knew how to have a good time, and I can't really think of a better good vibe to go out on than to have it give it time. So give the crowd what they want, give the people what they want, just finish on that super high, emotionally happy note. And yeah, this show was just absolutely aces for me all over.
You kind of nailed it on the drip field. I can't say anything more than that. I knew you were going to crush it on that. So you kind of took all my thoughts and made them better, as you do. But we've been talking up Tumble and Arrow way too much for 2024 because Hunger Sight and Dripfield have both become like that I am the captain now meme. I feel like, especially late September into now, they're just monsters and they're so high energy, or they're just encapsulations of what this band can do. But yeah, love that transition out of Hunger Sight into state of the art. Again, nailing the transitions. Kind of unbelievable how you can go from such high energy to that state of the art in like the flip of a switch, and it sounds perfect. And then this thatch really stood out to me. Like you said, kind of get a Fish Tweezer reminiscent riff from Rick on this one, and Peter's adding those like super cheesy kind of 80s synth shots, but it works. It kind of almost sounds like this is gonna sound bad, and I mean it in the best way. It kind of sounds like one of those like 80s or 90s beats you'd hear like some pastor inappropriately rapping over, for church, being like,
Oh dear God.
"Stay safe, abstinence is the way," but it's Goose, and it works. But then it evolves into like this awesome groove of like a more traditional key sound from Pete, and they're holding down that main theme, but it just builds and builds and builds, and Connor's really showing off some of his great hi-hat work. Once again, crushed it. And Jeff really grooving too. Like you could see him on video just vibing. So maybe we should get Jeff to rap over this groove sometime.
That's hysterical. And please, Jeff, don't get any ideas. We're good on that. But yeah, I mean, just to wrap up, like I can't reiterate this enough. To get the jams that were Hunger Sight, which was just furious, Thatch doing something new, and then Dripfield, which I just consider to be like a work of art. Like these three jams do three different things, and to get them all in the same set, it's just wow. I cannot wait for my show this week. This show got me so hyped up for my concert this week. So thank you, Goose. You guys are absolutely killing it right now.
Potentially concerts, but we won't speculate.
We'll wait on that one. We may have some news next week, but it's so tenuous that we're just going to leave that alone and not anger the gods that could potentially ruin my plans for tomorrow. But we'll see how it goes.
Hell yeah, buddy. And this run of shows in Florida, I mean, Goose is a Florida band now. Obviously, I was screaming from my couch so much that I lost my voice, I guess. No, I just get laryngitis sometimes. Sorry, folks. Thanks for putting up with me, and hopefully Mike's beautiful voice carried you through this episode, and my smoker lungs did not. But it was a fun episode, and loved recapping these with you, Mike. I cannot wait to get into the rest of this tour, but we're going to stray a little bit with the weird touring schedule and not wanting to break up the Cincy run. We're going to recap Shenanigans Nightclub next week, like we did with the Moon Cabin episode. That was really well received by most folks. And we're going to just kind of go through that, some of our favorite live cuts from Shenanigans, and also dive into the studio cuts. And then we'll finish up recapping the tour after the Anthem run in DC. So, yeah, anything else to say on that, Mike?
Yeah, no, definitely looking forward. 2 weeks from now, we'll be recapping the end of this leg here. Getting set to prepare for shifting into Goosemas mode. But we want to get all of our album recaps done before Goose potentially announces more albums next year, which seems very likely at this point. So, yeah, looking forward to kind of revisiting that album and going through that with you. And then we'll be back to talk tour in 2 weeks. So super excited for all of it. And yes, follow us on our socials. Stay tuned. Lots of episodes coming up.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for putting up with my voice again. Feels so bad that you have to suffer through this, but we had to talk about Goose. And we're so grateful to all of you who have been commenting and liking our posts and sending us positive messages. We absolutely read all of it that we can, try to respond to all of it. And we're so grateful to you. So hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next time on the Slow Ready podcast.
Much love to everyone. See you next week.